Okay, looks
Awesome.
like we may actually be live. Welcome again, Mark. Always good to catch up on a beautiful Tuesday evening where you are, Wednesday morning where I am. And we're just discussing the beautiful 10-foot sets that are rolling in out the front of my place. It's a good day. And I heard the surf's been good over your way as well.
It's been huge, but you know, the difference is you're 5 days away from summer starting and we're 5 days away from the shortest day of the year. The water temperature here right now is, just a little over 50 degrees. So what's that, about 6 degrees C, something like that?
Ooh, that's cold.
Oh, really? It'll get your attention, I'll tell you.
I was going to say, it is always cold on your side of the world, the water. And I've never really understood that because the water here is always about 20 degrees Celsius on this sort of.
So what's your latitude there though?
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I couldn't tell you. I'm not something.
It's probably somewhere around 25, maybe 26.
Yeah, I think we've had that discussion before, and I can't remember what we decided. But
well, we're at 35, so we're a lot further away from the equator than you are. Plus, the way California is situated, the current, the warm current is called the Japanese current, and it hits Point Conception, which is just south of us, and heads back out to the Pacific, circles back around. And so we get all the cold water coming down from Alaska.
Just what you need, hey? Just what you need.
Oh, man. I remember the first time, I grew up in Santa Barbara, and that's below Point Conception. And the water there was 20 during the summertime. Sometimes we'd get up to 25, which was very comfortable.
Yep.
But then when I came up to where I live now in San Luis Obispo, that's north of Point Conception. And the first time I got into the water, it was about 54 degrees and it was the summer. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. It was winter. It was colder than the winter in Santa Barbara.
Well, it's about 22 or 23 degrees Celsius here at the moment, the water temperature. So it's pretty nice.
Wow.
Pretty nice. But
our air temperature is not even that hot right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're well into summer. So we have had storms here, big storms, hence the big swell, but it's well into its 30s here now, most days. So it's very nice, very nice. But we didn't come to talk about the weather. We came to talk about 2021 again, and really just we wanted to change topics. In the past few weeks, we've been chatting about what people should do. Today, wanted to talk about what people need to stop doing. This is a conversation I've been having with my clients over the last couple of weeks, and quite an important one because everyone I think that most people, when they look at what they need to do, they're just constantly adding stuff on top of each other and getting busier and busier and busier. And when I look at moving forward, or when I look at what a client's doing, when I look at adding to results, I'm also looking at what do we need to remove. And, I've got something called remove the ridiculous, but there's a bigger topic of what do we actually need to stop doing to change so that we can actually improve upon. And this can come down to, at the basic level, what do we need to stop doing as a person to become the new person that we want to be? Any thoughts around that sort of opening, Mark?
Oh yeah, tons.
Awesome.
I've been doing something similar to this because we're starting a new beta project here, a pilot project that's focused on using big data to find ideal customers that match our ideal customers. So if you've ever done Facebook advertising, this is like the lookalike audiences, but it matches your ideal customer.
Sure.
So in the process of doing that, we've been looking at what kind of data do we want to compare to match up against. So this leads to exactly what we're talking about, is what do we want to stop doing in order to get things more aligned. And, you know, we've talked about the need to simplify in the past and, you know, reduce, you know, stop the hustle. And really, I find that across the 250 companies that I've worked with in the last 3 years or so, probably 98% of them are overwhelmed being busy. And they get caught up in the activity because they don't have a clear focus on the end. What is the end in mind? What is it that they're trying to do? And so you have to, you know this, and we've talked about this, is I cannot stress the importance of slowing down and taking a look and consider what you're actually doing. Is it moving you toward your outcome? And you may say, yes, it's moving me toward my outcome, but my reply would be, is it enough? So I want massive movements. And at the root cause, when we dig into it, it almost always comes down to the fact that clients are coming from a position where they think they know what's happening. And they make judgments based on that. I know that. So as soon as someone says, I know that, if I ask them a question, they say, I know that, I know we have a problem. Because as soon as you say, I know that, that means that their awareness has been blocked. And they've made a judgment, whether they realize it or not, because they think they know the answer. Yeah. So I would say the number one thing I would tell anyone moving into the new year is that if you find yourself saying, I know that, I know the answer, I know what's coming next, that take a breath and step back and consider, okay, what else could happen?
I guess that's probably one of the first things they need to stop doing, is saying, I know that, I know that. And it's a very ingrained comment. And it's a very ingrained kind of, like, we all like to be, proud, and we all like to defend ourselves, and, entering a normal conversation, we very rarely listen. We just want to respond. So for someone to coming at us with an idea, for us to say, yeah, I know that, it's almost an immediate reaction. And it's probably one of the first things that we can stop, so that, like you say, when you say that, it shuts down your brain to any opportunity and any new ideas. So to be able to stop that one kind of train of thought or language response, it allows us to open our brain instead of shutting it.
Yeah, and I've developed a game, if you will, that overcomes that. So oftentimes I'll sit in a mastermind group or an online call, and we'll pick a subject or a problem to address. And what I'll say is, all right, we're going to solve this problem, but we're going to do it by delimiting any known solution. So if we've done anything from our past, we can't use that. It automatically puts it on the X out list. Yep. And you think, well, why would you want to do that? And the reason that you want to do that is so that you expand your thinking into new ideas.
And to add to that, and I'm sure you already know that, this is that you're not repeating old operations. Yes. And really repeating old results. People, and we've talked about this actually last week when we talked about fear. Mm-hmm. People being fearful of change. People are also fearful of stopping something, because that forces them to have to create new results, versus getting results that they're used to, or sort of familiar with, or it takes them way out of their comfort zone, way,
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
And it's actually a beautiful thing. I love to do this to clients. I love to force them into a position where they have to stop something so that they do get new results. I actually have a saying around this, that my clients, when they first come on board, normally hate me for the first 30 days until the results start.
Yes.
And that is because I force them into a position where they have to change the things that they're doing. They have to stop the things that they've been doing and do
Right.
something new to create that kind of separation. You know, there's the old you and there's the new you. And to be able to force that on someone, it's quite funny because I understand the clients that will stay around and get results, and I understand the ones that don't. The ones that don't are the ones that can't go through that 30-day period and make a huge shift. They want to repeat the old habits. They want to repeat old results versus letting go of everything.
Well, and I think also one of the key factors here is that they want to reproduce old results. And if we make the assumption that those old results are good results, do we want great results or do we want good results? Is good good enough for your client, or is great truly what they want? And I've many times talked with clients that will say that's the best we've ever done, and they're still in single digit profitability. And for me, I don't even consider a company being effective until they're at a minimum double digit profitability after they paid themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So it's at least 10%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's frightening how many businesses are unable to deliver a 10% profit.
Yeah. It's astounding to me that people hold themselves to old results when they actually know and they're aware of how poor those results are. And they refuse to change in the face of knowing their poor results. This is the crazy conundrum that a lot of people do fall into. And it really takes something. And like I said, like in the first 30 days, I'm normally shaking people out of their comfort zone completely, which forces them to look at a new result, which actually forces them to see how poorly or how different their results were in the past, because they're not always poor results. Some people are doing amazingly well, but a new result, a much greater result, or a much easier result shocks them enough to go, wow, I truly wasn't performing before. It's, you know, in asking people to stop doing the familiar, I think that's where a lot of transformation takes place as well.
It's the growth zone, unquestionably. Few thoughts. Number one, because they're focused on what's familiar to them, they don't know what they don't know. They've not considered that there are other possibilities. So they create their own self-contained limitations because they're not willing to move outside that comfort zone of what they do know. The second thing is they justify their current state by telling themselves stories like, I don't know anybody that's making that kind of money. I've never seen that in this industry. You know, and that would be great, but we've never seen that in the last 20 years. So they justify the performance based on everyone else's substandard optimization. And if we look at that 80-20 principle again, right? We live there. They're looking at the 80%, which has a 1x value. When you analyze 80-20, The lower 80% has a 1x value, and 1x is the average of the total sales in that 80%. So let's just say that that amounts to $1,000. That's the 1x value.
Yep.
As we move up into the 20%, the upper 20%, the lower 16% has a 4x to 5x ratio. So that moves from up from 1,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 is the average sales dollar of that 81 to 94%, 95%. The next 4% is worth 20 to 25 times what the 80% is, 20x to 25%.
It's a huge, like most people don't know the numbers behind the 80-20, and I urge people who are watching to go out and actually take a look at the numbers behind that, because most people are spending their whole working career dealing with the 80% because they're too scared to focus, they're too scared to change, they're too scared to stop dealing with, and maybe, we're talking about this with clients yesterday, and sometimes it's just stopping dealing with past clients. When there's a 20x return, people don't really go through the math on this, but if they looked at it from the math percentage and went, okay, I could deal with those 80 people and make $80,000, or I could deal with these 4 people and make a 20x on that, it's a very different conversation.
It's radically different, and it's the root of simplification. And here's the interesting thing. When you really start thinking strategically about the power behind the numbers, the power behind the Pareto principle, one of the fastest ways I grow my clients is send all those low-performing clients to my competitors, right? So I overpower them with new business that's the wrong business, and then I casually will inquire to the best customers that are now having serious delivery problems and serious customer service problems and serious lack of potential problems because they're so busy being busy. And then it's like, hey, we've got capacity to take another A-list client. We'd love to have you work with us.
And maybe this is the first thing that a lot of people can do. Well, maybe the second. Maybe the first one is stop saying I know to everything. The second being stop dealing with 80% of your clients. Like, take stock. And this goes back to conversations we've had in past weeks around target market and what you're talking about earlier with the data mining. Stop dealing with the low end. Stop dealing with the clients that actually aren't giving you the multiple that you're after.
Well, and I think, James, it comes down to a really simple single sentence answer. And that is, know what you're looking for.
Yeah. People often do know what they're looking for, and yet they're too scared to say yes they're too scared to say yes, or really they're too scared to say no to what they're currently dealing with, to change their results. It's a tough one. And, I find this, with lots of clients, that they are too attached to the security to allow that change into a much greater reward. And that in itself hampers a lot of people's businesses. I've got a client just come on board, actually, really looking forward to getting moving with this client, already making moves forward. But we were having a discussion about 2021 yesterday, and I was discussing this topic with all my guys yesterday around stopping what you're doing. And it opened up a conversation around what's possible. And for him, it is literally this, like removing a good portion of who he has been dealing with so that he can deal with the elite. And he's in a specialized training kind of market, in the sports market. And for him, this alone means like you say, a 20x multiple.
Right.
It opens the door to that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past,
especially if you're dealing with elite athletes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking of one of your fellow Australians that is a motivational elite trainer. And you may have met her in one of Kevin's groups. She was in a couple of my meetings there. And, you know, she works with professional athletes, really top tier professional athletes, the kind of athletes that are making more than $20 million a year.
Right.
So if you're working with those kinds of athletes on mind shift and mindset and getting them to optimize their mental positioning for their athletic endeavor, that's worth millions of dollars a year to them in terms of income. So it's absolutely possible to 100x your income when you're working with those clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Over the years, it's been interesting. Like over the last 10 years, I've always had a good constant flow of clients, but I've had certain clients that have been a 20x return on all of my other clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to watch that. And often those clients are easier to deal with. There's less work involved, and
Mm-hmm.
they are getting a 20x result by what you're inputting to them.
Right.
And that is what good, smart business is about. Like that's where the simplification and the clarity comes in. If you're operating with that 1% on the 1%.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that's so exciting about that is that, you know, I consider myself to be an elite coach, as I'm sure you consider yourself to be. We get exceptional results compared to most business coaches. You know, anytime that you can get 7 and 8 figure results, that puts you in a different league with everyone else. And as a result of that, you know, I think to myself, and it's constantly on my mind, is what are the data nuances that allow this to happen? And I'm looking for very, very small differences, because collectively, 1% here, 0.5% there. My experience in everything I've ever worked with in the 47, 46, 48 years I've been in business is that when you reach the elite status, you're dealing in hundreds, if not thousands of a second of improvement. Not even a blink of an eye. You could blink the eye 20 times for that amount of incremental improvement. But collectively, it's leveraged. So the output may only be 100th of a second or 1,000th of a second. But when that acts upon another lever, it may give you 1/10 of a second. And that's the difference between an Olympic medal and no medal.
A lot of that is, and this is another thing, you know, people need to stop doing, is a lot of that comes down to mindset. And, you know, when you're operating at that level, it's not so much skill. Everyone has a certain amount of skill, but not everyone has the mental capacity or the mental strength or agility to be able to stay the course on something, move and change on something, be confident enough to attack something, you know, or just stop thinking and just act and be in flow at the right time.
And, you know, that whole concept of flow is essential. You know, if Mead Csikszentmihalyi wrote Flow, if you haven't read Flow, it's one of those influential, you know, it's up here, it's got a gold star. You know, this, you know, flow, this is essential for anybody that is a high performance individual, because it really defines those elements that relate to flow. And as I look at professional athletes or professional automotive racers or skiers or anybody that's working at the ultra elite level, You take an athlete, they've got a strength coach, they've got an agility coach, they've got a endurance coach, they've got a strategy coach, they've got specialized coaches that are focusing on those individual little areas because they want to have micro improvements that collectively get them into a state of flow. And the literal situation of why most people don't do it, they can't do it, is because they have too much noise in their life, too much busy being busy.
Yeah.
And so this really gets to the root of why that we want to simplify, why we want to clarify and simplify, because you need more time to examine and look within.
Yeah.
And be honest with yourself and be honest with yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that starts off to the basis of what I teach around removing the ridiculous. That it just frees up time to think, to have the space to be able to actually look and assess stuff versus being busy all the time. Some people, there's a difference between being busy and doing stuff and being in flow and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, after you actually do remove the ridiculous, I've got another one where it's, you do the right thing at the right time. And you're able to do that. And when you're in flow and doing the right thing at the right time, everything becomes simple. Everything becomes very...
Timing is essential. And it goes back to that discussion that we had about pole vaulting a few weeks ago. There's 52 movements in a vault. And you can't, any gymnastic event like that, there are so many complex movements that unless it's timed absolutely perfectly, you'll cancel the momentum that you built. And then as a result, the whole routine collapses on itself. Yeah. And the only way that we can do that is when we're in a state of flow, where it's muscle memory around practicing the perfect sequence of events in the right way, in the right quantity to get the result we're after.
Yeah. And, going back to what we were saying around, achieving much greater results comes down to stopping thinking about each individual piece and trying to do each individual piece. When I learn something, and it comes back to mastery, it comes back to being in flow. Like mastery and being in flow is kind of the same thing. When you know something so well that it's ingrained, and like I could name 100 things, whether it be in my hockey career or in my water skiing career or even in my business career, I study something to the point where it's mastery, it's ingrained, so that I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go to a book and go, what's next? I don't have to, I don't have to actually stop in the middle of action for that next piece to fall into place. It becomes one it's one movement. And that's what a lot of people are constantly stopping and starting, because they haven't studied well enough. They don't know what they're doing well enough for it to be one fluid movement, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And, it's like you're doing the perfect pitch me here, for the knowledge, right? So this is another one of I've read 3 times or more books, and this is by Robert Greene, and it's the 48 Laws of Mastery. And this is, if you want to study mastery, this is a great place to do it, because it's like, these are the elements of becoming a master at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And so this is all, I like having the library behind me here, because these are the fundamental things that are necessary to be a peak performer. To really work, you have to understand the elements that you're up against and what those variables are and what's important. Because if you focus on the most important elements, you'll have the biggest incremental improvement the quickest. And then you'll go until it gets to the point where you're looking for those smaller and smaller and smaller improvements to push you ahead of where nobody can compete with you. And that is the ultimate position where you want to be the absolute best of the best, and your competitors cannot compete with you. That's ultimately where we want to be.
It's like that takes me back to when I was playing hockey and just practicing to shoot goals.
Mhm.
Like the hockey goal is not a big goal, and the goalie can almost reach every part of it.
Mhm.
So that being able to shoot a goal is not just about being able to hit the ball hard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's being able to hit the ball hard into every single different position of the net. And that might be 3 inches away from the last place you were practicing. And, that's what I used to do. I used to practice hitting every single part of the net. Whether it be top right corner, top left corner, bottom right corner, bottom mid goal. All of those different things matter, and you've got to be able to practice them to the point where you can hit them every time. And it's no different in business. To be able to, it was funny because I was writing a video script for one of my clients the other day, and I don't do them very often, but I thought I'd save my client a lot of time. I thought, I'll see if I've still got the old skills there. And it flows naturally when you've practiced it a lot. It flows naturally when you've done the work, the structure. And it was actually a joy to sit down for a few hours. And, pretty much it took the most good part of the day, just to get it right and edit it and do that sort of stuff. But it was, when you do something once and it's done right, it's a very different feeling. You can feel yourself in flow when you're writing, or when you're, doing anything, when you're at that level of, you're at that excelling level, you do something, it's done well. Versus if you are trying to do something, it's very different trying to do something and doing something.
It's when you were talking about hockey and being able to practice to hit the net anywhere that you want on demand.
Yep.
The nuance of that, if I were to say, why is that important? And you would say, well, because I've got control, I can hit the net anywhere I want. And my immediate thought is, if you've got that kind of control, the next stage of thinking is, where is the goalie expecting the puck to go, and shoot the opposite?
Yeah.
And that's the key to always scoring, because they're going someplace where they think the puck is going, but it's going someplace else.
Well, that's the famous Wayne Gretzky quote.
Absolutely. Skate to the puck.
Skate to where the puck's going, not where it is. And
right.
It's, that's what happens in flow. That's what happens when you stop thinking about, okay, I've got to take this shot and I've got to lift the stick this way and I've got to think about where I'm hitting it here. And if you're doing,
slow,
thinking about the 52 pieces of the pole vault,
right,
there's no chance you're making the pole vault. It's going to be a very clunky experience.
It's a crash and burn is what it is.
Yeah, it's the same in water skiing, doing somersaults and whatever. If you're thinking that hard about every little piece, you
can't keep up with the motion.
No.
Especially if you're skiing at 30 miles an hour.
Life moves too quickly. Business moves too quickly. Everything moves too quickly if you've got to think about everything you have to do. You have to be like, and this is the thing, like I will take time away, and I say to my clients, like, take time away to think about what you're going to do. Once you can see it clearly, execute as fast as you can. Don't think about it anymore. Just execute as fast as you can. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that thinking, going, oh, I've got to think about this, and then I've got to think about that. And they're constantly thinking instead of going back to being in flow and, moving through the process.
It's, as I listen to this conversation, I'm putting myself in the shoes of the listener, the business guy that's out there going, I gotta do better than what I'm doing right now. And I know from so many conversations, they're thinking, how am I going to do that? That's just overwhelming. That is the classic indication that you're in a state of overwhelm. when you look at this and go, how can I do this? That's just, the thought of this is just overwhelming. It's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like the more clear that you become, the easier it is to simplify. And when you say get rid of the ridiculous, again, I had to laugh. I love your comments, because it's incredible what the ridiculous is to us is the important thing to the client. And it's not important. It's absolutely not important.
100%. It's so funny. Like, every new client that comes on board, they come to me saying, what marketing do you want me to do? What can I learn? What can I learn about marketing? And I was like, how about you just do marketing instead of learning more about it? People bury themselves under learning.
Well, we're raised that way.
Instead of execution.
We're raised that way. I mean, every year we go to school, every year we get advanced to grade, and we've got a couple of opportunities to disengage. We can disengage after high school, or we can disengage after a bachelor's degree, or we can disengage after a master's degree, or we can disengage after a doctorate, or we can, and they just keep going on and on. And the further they go on without executing, the less in touch with reality they become. And we've all heard about how professors and academics are just out of touch with what's happening. That theory may be good in the books, but that's not the way the real world works. And it absolutely is the case, because they've lost track of the application of the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Bringing it back to what we should stop. I know you've got a call at the top of the hour, so we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, 5 more minutes.
Yeah. But I just wanted to mention, for the people listening out there, a couple of things to stop. Stop looking for more knowledge. Stop looking for what you need to learn. Maybe start looking for what you need to execute.
What you need to do.
There's always going to be more to learn, but at some stage you need to stop, or at least slow that up, or section a piece of time out for that. If you're constantly learning, or constantly trying to learn, or constantly thinking you need to learn more, you need to stop thinking about that. You need to stop doing that. You need to start executing in a different manner. As I said, like, when clients come to me, they normally hate me for the first 30 days because it's such a complete 180 to what they have been doing, what I make them execute on. But when the results come 30 days later or 45 days later, and they've made a massive shift in their business, they realize just how snowed under they were, and how their thinking was actually stopping them from, getting the results they desire.
My concluding stop doing this statement would be, stop chasing shiny objects.
It's always the case.
You've got plenty of resources and plenty of tools available. Stop chasing shiny objects, and start seriously focusing on the results that you want to achieve. What is the outcome that you want to achieve? And it can't be, I want to be successful, or I want to make a bunch of money. That's not the answer.
No. They have to be hard and fast targets that you can measure and kind of actually tick a box on, did I do that or did I not?
Right. The SMART goals, right? Put the SMART criteria. Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they attainable? Are they relevant? Are they time limited within a specific time?
Yeah.
If you can answer yes to the results on all of that, it's a meaningful outcome.
Yeah. I think we should probably wrap it there.
Good. Another great call.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we will say goodbye there. Thanks again, Mark, for chatting. Always awesome fun.
Yeah, we'll have our next call on the second day of your summer next Tuesday.
Well, we're already in summer.
Are you? I
Yeah.
thought it was the 21st.
No, we're not. Well, I don't follow this, but I always thought it was the 1st of December.
Ah,
So
we're thinking.
it's
Yeah,
a
I
bit,
don't know. I mean, I always look at the first day of winter as the shortest day of the year. And the
it's
shortest day of the year is the 21st of December.
it's a
So
good
that
thing.
would correspond to the first day of summer on your side of the world.
True.
But first day, it doesn't really matter. It's a state of mind. Summer is a state of mind.
And where I am, Mark, it's summer all year long.
Exactly.
All right,
Awesome.
mate. Good to chat again. We'll
Cheers.
again soon.